Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Gamatui Anaerobic Natural Processed Uganda from Black & White Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. And Black & White, based out of Wake Forest, North Carolina, and this coffee right here was featured in our most recent blind taste test rankings video, where it did finish second place out of 3 coffees from the Gamatui processing set. Now, the reason it finished in that spot on that day was because it wasn't quite as fruity as the first place finisher, the natural, and it wasn't quite as smoky as the third place finisher, which was the hydro washed. That being said, we were able to detect and distinguish this coffee separated from the other two really easily, as it did have a bit of an alcohol component in this cup, and we kind of knew that anaerobics can have a bit of an alcohol component from time to time. That's something we did want to expand on real quick when it comes to Black & White, as they were one of our first big experiences with anaerobic processed coffees. A couple years ago, we did purchase a set from them, the Finca El Paraíso set, which came with 3 coffees, one of which kind of tasted like ginger Sprite, another of which tasted like tropical fruits, which we enjoyed very much, and then there was a third coffee, which tasted like a super funky fermented strawberry candy. And that still to this day is one of our least favorite coffees that we've ever had, but it just kind of gave us an impression of what we might be able to expect from anaerobic coffees, as they can be pretty intense. This right here is day 15 of this coffee. Alright, the recipe we used, and this is another one that we liked best through the automatic coffee maker to kind of dilute the really intense flavors of this coffee. So, automatic coffee maker for this one, the roast profile is listed as a light medium on the bag, and it's definitely light medium American for the roast profile. With that out of the way, let's start discussing the coffee itself. On day 6, blind taste test day, and we noted on that video on that day it tasted like alcohol. That was the most notable thing. There were some slight darker fruits in the cup, but for the most part the alcohol is what we were getting. And then day 8, distinct liqueur still, almost dominating anything else that we could get from this cup of coffee. Just kind of a generic alcohol. If there's one alcohol we know, if there's one spirit we know somewhat well, it's rum, and I don't know if I would necessarily describe it as rum. It was just kind of a little bit more of a generic alcohol taste. And wanted to stop on day 8 and say something, because we did look at the information on Black & White's website a couple of days ago. We typically do not look at the information for coffees beforehand. That way we don't get primed or influenced and it impacts our reviews. But they did say on the information on their website that the best way to drink this coffee is to let it rest for at least a week and a half due to the processing method. So that way a lot of the booziness that does come in this cup of coffee, because they admit that it will be pretty boozy, will die down and you will be getting these more wild flavors. They say it's definitely worth the wait. So definitely that caveat worth noting earlier on, as up to day 12 pretty much, we were still just getting an overbearing and generic booziness in this cup. Day 9, still the same impression, just generic booziness dominating the cup. Day 11, we played around with the coffee, and we did play around with this coffee quite a bit. Chemex, obviously the first thing we did, V60, and then the automatic coffee maker. We lowered the temperatures on this day. The booziness was still there, but we were getting a little bit more, so we think that lowering the extraction was a good thing. And slight fleshy fruits, a bit of berry, but the alcohol component was still dominating this cup. And then day 12, the first time we did put it through the automatic coffee maker, and we did let it cool down. Best impression we'd had to the coffee. A lot of the sharpness really did tone down. Can be attributed to both the rest as well as the change in brew method, and the finish was better, a nicer mix of fruits in the cup. And we went back to the Chemex and we tried it in a recipe. We said, okay, maybe it was just the time that really impacted this coffee, but putting it back at 205 degrees through the Chemex was a no-go. I don't like the way this coffee tastes through the Chemex. It's too strong, it's too intense in the Chemex. So lesson learned on day 13. And then day 14, which is the day we made the tasting wheel, went back, and again through the automatic coffee maker. It's just better. It really is. It tones down so many of those strong alcohol components in this cup of coffee. And they say on the information as well that if you let it age and you let it cool, that the alcohol will go away. That's not the case I experienced, as this coffee has cooled down, as the coffee did cool down yesterday. Still get quite a bit of alcohol in the cup. Alright, let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we're getting. And did our very best with this tasting wheel, because we did give them the benefit of the doubt. We made this tasting wheel the first time around with the Chemex, but as we were kind of working through it, we said, we're going to be a little bit more fair, and we're going to make this tasting wheel the way we thought this coffee was best. So we scrapped the Chemex tasting wheel we did, and did it with the automatic coffee maker. So this is done through the automatic coffee maker as well, which is kind of surprising that the body is as low as it is, but regardless, acidity still at a level 5, so that just does kind of indicate how strong this coffee was when it was done through the Chemex. Same thing with the finish. We're still tasting this coffee. This is one of those coffees that you're tasting for quite a while after you drank this cup. Let it cool down, of course, so we could chart the fruits a little better. Berries level 3, that's probably the most dominant thing we were getting. I think they say the grape was kind of a mixed berry mostly. Citrus fruit level 2, stone fruit level 2. Bit of smokiness in this cup as it had aged as well. Sweetness, highest we could probably give it was level 3. This boozy acidity was just really dominating this cup of coffee, no matter how we did it, no matter how we let it cool down, no matter how much, I don't know, no matter what we did with this cup of coffee, there was just booziness in it. All right, our overall thoughts and impressions of this coffee. So we've been saying we don't love the boozy berry, and it's become very much a trend, and it's not our favorite, and obviously this cup of coffee was not our favorite. It was definitely the third place coffee by the end of having drank all 3 of these black and white coffees. And we just want to say this, our opinion on this coffee shouldn't influence anybody else. If you really like the way that these boozy berry coffees have been tasting, then go ahead and definitely give this one a shot, as in our opinion, Black and White is such an amazing coffee roaster, and they do such an amazing job with their wash processed coffees and their natural processed coffees, and we've had a really hard time with their anaerobic processed coffees, that it's one of the reasons we don't just drink them more. If they did more of the just amazing washed and natural processed coffees, we would probably drink more of their coffees, we'd probably review more of their coffees, but they have a lot of anaerobic coffees on their website, and this is kind of the experience we get with anaerobic coffees, and we wanted to be honest and upfront about that, as we know some people are going to really enjoy these coffees, and a lot of people have been just gloating about how amazing the anaerobics are. But as far as this coffee goes, we've seen a lot of people reacting to this coffee, and it's been a lot of the same impression, that they're just not enjoying the way this coffee did come out. Even with a little bit of rest, even with following the instructions, it's just not their favorite. Definitely wasn't our favorite. But that's not to try to dissuade anybody from trying this cup of coffee, as we think that there are some people that would really enjoy this. And of course, that leads us into who you'd suggest this coffee to, and that is somebody that does enjoy that boozy berry component, that has a little bit of patience, can wait, and you are still going to be experiencing booze throughout this cup of coffee, at least in our experience. That was the case. There are some really nice fruit components that are buried underneath this cup of coffee, and as you saw in the tasting wheel, we were able to get to them after working through them, and that will make what is a pretty boozy, berry forward coffee something a little bit more enjoyable. So there is somebody we think that would really enjoy this cup of coffee, and that's just who we had suggested to. But I think we're going to leave it at that. We would love to know your thoughts and impressions of this cup of coffee, as well, as we've seen a lot of opinions on this coffee, and there's always room for more. We just want to know if, maybe there was somebody that really enjoyed this cup of coffee. Maybe it's one of your favorite cups of coffee of the year. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. But this right here has been a review of the Gamatui Anaerobic Natural Processed Uganda from Black and White Coffee. Thank you for watching.